Syria's interim president vows to track down and trial remnants of Bashar al-Assad's regime after a surge in violence. A Hamas delegation arrives in Cairo to discuss the implementations of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. And Israel's political leadership issues directives to prepare for the resumption of military operations in Gaza. Hello there, good morning. It's 10 o'clock, Cairo local time, and you're watching Q News. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments in Syria. A security source in Latakia has told the Syrian Arab news agency that armed groups attacked the national hospital, with security forces countering the assault. The Syrian Ministry of Defense confirmed the successful repulsion of an attack of the naval forces headquarters in Latakia. The Syrian news agency also reported large-scale operations in northern and eastern Latakia and Ble. Syrian media noted that the deaths of 13 security personnel in ongoing clashes with military reinforcements heading to restore stability. The Syrian Ministry of Defense has announced significant military progress, reclaiming areas previously attacked by armed groups targeting security forces. The military spokesperson, Hassan Abdulghani, stated that the military had executed a successful encirclement operation, tightening the noose on remnants of the old regime. That came as Syrian forces continue to dismantle criminal groups, ensuring all involved are handed over for legal accountability. He also said that citizens are assured that operations are proceeding as planned and warned that any resistance would face decisive action. Syria's interim president, Ahmed al-Shara, has vowed to track down and bring to trial the remnants of the ousted Bashar al-Assad regime, following a surge of violence in coastal areas. In his first public address and remarks on the crisis, Shara urged security forces to act with restraint and urged that captured members of the former regime would face a fair trial. Fighting continued as Syrian security forces battled an insurgency led by fighters from Assad's Alawite sect in western Syria. The government described Thursday's attack as well-planned and an assault by loyalists of the ousted regime. While officials have not released a casualty count, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reports that over 180 people have been killed in the past 2 days. Syrian Foreign Minister Asad al-Shibani has said that Syria is facing a covert war aimed at preventing stability and political closure attempts abroad. In his official X post, al-Shibani emphasized that Syria has repeatedly overcome efforts to destabilize the nation. He praised Syria's people for their unity, patriotism, and their support for their leadership, particularly in regions targeted by external forces. UN Special Envoy to Syria, Geir Peterson, has expressed concerns over reports of clashes on the Syrian coast that resulted in these casualties between the Syrian interim government forces and factions loyal to President Bashar al-Assad's regime. Peterson The worrying reports of civilian casualties clearly call for restraint from all parties and adherence to the protection of civilians under international law. Egypt has expressed concern over the recent clashes in Syria's Latakia, which resulted in the casualties and injuries. In a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Immigration, Egypt reiterated support for Syrian institutions and stability in the face of security challenges. It emphasized that all forms of violence and other issues to cease, urging a comprehensive political transition involving all Syrian. Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman al-Safadi has affirmed that attempts to push Syria towards chaos, division and conflict are crimes that directly threaten the region's stability. In a statement on X, al-Safadi condemned all external interventions and groups targeting Syria's security, sovereignty and peace. He expressed Jordan's full support for Syria's efforts to protect its stability and the safety of its people, emphasizing the need for collective efforts to help Syria rebuild on the principles of unity, security and sovereignty. Meanwhile, the Iraqi Ministry of Foreign Affairs has expressed deep concern over emphasizing the importance of protecting civilians. The ministry stressed the seriousness of implications and this situation for regional security and stability, calling for restraint from all parties involved. Iraq reiterated its firm stance on protecting innocent civilians, urging dialogue and peaceful solutions rather than military escalation. He warned that continued violence would worsen the crisis and hinder efforts to restore peace. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has expressed concern over Syria's deteriorating security situation, urging all respected leaders to work quickly. The spokesperson reports of heavy fighting between Syrian forces and armed groups in Latakia and Tartus, resulting in significant casualties. She emphasized the importance of national unity and protecting citizens' rights. Russia reaffirmed its support for Syria's sovereignty and called for coordinated efforts to de-escalate the conflict. And now we go to the latest developments in Gaza. A Hamas delegation has arrived in Cairo to discuss the implementation of the Gaza ceasefire agreement and move forward with the second phase of negotiations. That's according to Egypt's State Information Service. Egypt is intensifying its diplomatic efforts with all parties to accelerate progress on the next phase of the truce. Meetings with Hamas leadership, along with talks with the US and Qatar officials, aimed at finalizing the terms of the ceasefire agreement and transitioning to its next stage. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or the OIC, has officially endorsed Egypt's plan to rebuild Gaza, which was proposed during the Cairo summit on March 4th. The organization firmly rejected any plans aiming at displacing Palestinians. During a ministerial meeting in Jeddah, the OIC called on the international community to provide urgent support for the reconstruction effort. emphasized the need to launch a clear political process to achieve a lasting and just resolution that ensures the Palestinian people's legitimate right to establish their own state. Israel's political leadership has issued directives to prepare for the resumption of military operations in Gaza. That's according to reports from Israeli public broadcaster Kan. Sources warn that a renewed offensive could pose a significant risk to the lives of Israeli detainees still held in Gaza. Meanwhile, 56 Israeli hostages who were previously detainees have been exchanged and have sent formal appeal to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, urging them to fully implement all stages of the agreement and secure the release of those in captivity. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency UNRWA has reported that Israel has demolished over 16 buildings in the Nur Shams camp and following the destruction of more than 20 homes last week. The agency warned that these large-scale demolitions represent a concerning new trend with unprecedented consequences for Palestinian refugees. UNRWA also said that Israel's actions are intended to permanently alter the demographics of refugee camps in the northern West Bank, further escalating tensions in the region. Yemen's Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi has warned that the group will resume naval operations against Israel if aid restrictions on Gaza are not lifted within 4 days. The Houthis previously launched over 100 attacks on shipping from November 2023, claiming solidarity with Palestinians amid Israel's war on Gaza. These assaults subsided in January following a ceasefire. In February, the group also warned it would take military action if the US and Israel attempted to forcibly displace Palestinians from Gaza. Lebanon now, where Israeli warplanes have launched multiple airstrikes on the south, targeting areas including Nabatea and Jabal el-Rihan and the Litani River Basin. These strikes caused widespread damage and fires. Israeli troops also conducted sweeps in various other areas to intimidate residents and push them from the area.
Instead of mainstream equal rights, we are witnessing.
The US President Donald Trump has announced that he has selected Michelle Issa to be the US ambassador to Lebanon. Trump described Issa as on Truth Social as a prominent businessman, a financial expert, and a leader with an outstanding career in banking, entrepreneurship, and international trade. So next to Russia, and Russia has launched a series of cluster strikes targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure, while Ukrainian forces are reported to be repelling multiple Russian assaults. For the first time, French-supplied Mirage 2000 fighter jets were reportedly deployed in Ukraine's defense efforts. According to Russia's defense ministry, precision-guided munitions and drones have been used over the past week to carry out multiple cluster attacks on Ukrainian military facilities, including air bases, ammunition depots, drone storage sites, and naval bases. During the night from Thursday into early Friday, Russian forces also struck key natural gas energy facilities linked to Ukraine's military-industrial complex, claiming to have hit designated targets. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has welcomed ongoing discussions with US President Trump's team and aid support from European nations. In his address, Zelensky said many calls held with Trump's representatives have focused on peace as soon as possible. Zelensky also welcomed a boost in support for European nations, including Norway, the Netherlands and France, and condemns Russia's first missile attack on energy and gas infrastructure inside Ukraine overnight, since the US paused intelligence sharing with Ukraine. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that women's rights are increasingly under attack, calling for urgent action to prevent setbacks in gender equality.
Every 10 minutes, a woman is killed by her partner or a family member. 612 million women and girls live under the shadow of armed conflicts, where their rights are too often considered expendable. Less than 2/3 of women worldwide participate in the labor market, and those who do earn far less than men. At this pace, eradicating extreme poverty for women and girls will take 130 years. And as we see in every corner of the world, from pushback to rollback, women's rights are under attack.
Antonio Guterres there. Violent clashes erupted in Athens as protesters faced off against riot police, with fireworks exploding in the streets and multiple detentions reported. Thousands gathered outside the Greek parliament ahead of a no-confidence vote linked to the deadly 2023 train collision. This marks the third protest in recent days and follows last Friday's mass demonstration, where hundreds of thousands rallied on the anniversary of the crash. Earlier in the day, thousands of students marched towards the parliament, while demonstrators later encircled the building as lawmakers debated the censure motion, which was submitted on March 5th. Ex-tropical cyclone Alfred continues to hover over Australia's south-east coast this Saturday, with authorities in New South Wales urging residents to stay on high alert. The storm has already brought down trees and power lines, triggering widespread flooding in river systems. Now downgraded to a tropical low, Alfred crossed the islands of Queensland's coast overnight and is expected to make landfall on the mainland, according to the Bureau of Meteorology. Have been evacuated and local reports in water of 1 million people are without power after strong winds brought down power lines. With no fatalities reported, authorities are warning residents to stay indoors, with further severe weather expected in the coming hours. And from Australia to Argentina now, severe storms in the Argentine port cities of Bahia Blanca and Punta Alta, southwest of Buenos Aires, have left 6 people dead and caused widespread flooding. Officials and local media reported that the storm forced emergency evacuations from homes and health centres, while dramatic images on social media captured mothers carrying newborns to safety after a hospital was inundated with the bad weather. Meteorologists have warned of another storm front expected to hit later. Authorities have confirmed the death of a woman at a highway intersection and have not ruled out additional fatalities. Now to the latest economic news. US President Donald Trump met with top cryptocurrency industry figures at the White House to discuss his plan to position the United States as the crypto capital of the world. A day earlier, Trump signed an executive order establishing a Bitcoin strategic reserve along with 4 other cryptocurrencies. The order directs the Treasury and Commerce Departments to create budget-neutral strategies for acquiring additional Bitcoin without increasing taxpayer costs. According to a statement from the White House, advisor David Sachs on social media platform X said the reserve will be funded using Bitcoin previously seized by the federal government through asset cases.
They're working very hard on that. And as you know, China is pushing forward and very strongly as usual, but we're way in the lead as we are in AI.
State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce has confirmed that the United States is reviewing all sanctions waivers that currently provide economic relief to Iran as part of its broader pressure campaign against Tehran.
You might imagine we have nothing to announce with regards to the current electricity waiver that expires on the 8th. In line with National Security Presidential Memorandum Number 2, we are reviewing all existing sanctions waivers that provide Iran any degree of economic or financial relief. And we are urging the Iraqi government to eliminate its dependence on Iranian sources of energy as soon as possible and welcome the Iraqi Prime Minister's commitment to achieve energy independence. Hopefully, the United States is leading the way when it comes to that kind of an approach.
Tammy Bruce there from the State Department. Let's recap the main headlines this morning. Syria's interim president vows to track down and trial remnants of Bashar al-Assad's regime after surge in violence. A Hamas delegation arrives in Cairo to discuss the implementation of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. And Israel's political leadership issues directives to prepare for the resumption of military operations in Gaza. And that's all for now, but In Depth is next with Mona. Have a good morning.